Hayon, Shabbat Shalom, Hayon, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom. Hayon, Shabbat Shalom, Hayon, Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom, Barbara. Good to be with you. And Shabbat Shalom, everybody that is with us from your homes. It's great to be with you to welcome Shabbat. Ma Yafe Hayom, what a great day it is. It is a beautiful day outside. I got a chance to spend a little bit of time outside in the sunshine this morning. It's a glorious day. So if you haven't yet and you're able to, I encourage you to spend some time in the sunshine. Living in Houston, we know that there won't be many more days like this left. So enjoy it while it's in the low 70s, breezy and beautiful. It is great to be together. And I hope that the space where you find yourself this morning is beautiful and warm and soothing as well. And in that vein, we're going to continue with the words of Matovu, which expresses our gratitude for our dwelling places. How goodly are your tents, O Jacob, your dwellings, O Israel. We continue now with this blessing, giving thanks for the miraculous gift of our bodies. Baruch Ata Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher yatzar et ha'adam b'chokhmah, uvara vo nekavim nekavim chalulim chalulim, galui v'yadua lifnei chisei chivodecha, she'im yipatech echad mehem, o yisatem echad mehem, אפשר להתקיים ולעמוד בפניך, ברוך אתה אדוני, רופא כל בשר ומפליא לעשות.
Just as we give thanks for our bodies, we also give thanks for our souls. On page 78, if you're following in the prayer book, we have Elohai Neshama, my God, the soul you have given me is pure. Elohai Neshama Shenatata V'Tehorahi, Elohai Neshama Shenatata V'Tehorahi, Elohai Neshama Shenatata Elohai Neshama Tehorahi, Elohai Neshama Shenatata V'Tehorahi, Elohai Neshama Shenatata V'Tehorahi.
We continue now to give thanks for all of the small miracles of everyday living. Again, if you're following the prayer books, the set of Nisim B'chol Yom, this series of morning blessings, begin on page 80 of your prayer books. We begin giving thanks for the mind's ability to distinguish between day and night.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan l'sech vivina lehavchin ben yom uvein laila. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, who opens the eyes of the blind. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, who frees the captive. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, who lifts up the fallen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, who stretches the earth over the waters. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, who strengthens our steps. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, who clothes the naked. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, who gives strength to the weary. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, who removes sleep from the eyes, slumber from the eyelids. I want to stop for a second and think about what each of us is grateful for today, what we want to thank God for. Rabbi, what are you thanking God for?
Yeah, so today, this morning, I think I'm feeling grateful for nature. Like I said, I got a few minutes to spend outside today and just giving thanks for the fact that the earth keeps turning and the sun keeps shining, and the sort of shelter in place world that we're living in sort of forces us all to slow down and recognize the gifts of the natural world that kind of go past us unnoticed on other days. So today I give thanks to God for the gifts of the natural world. How about you?
I'm very grateful for my family today, for their support and for reaching out, although not in person, on any kind of social media we can use, but very, very grateful to have loving family and friends surrounding me.
Amen.
Amen. Amen. If you would like to share something, please put it in the chat. And we're continuing. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, who made me in the image of God. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, who has made me free. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, who has made me a Jew. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, who girds Israel with strength. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, who crowns Israel with splendor. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddishanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah.
Amen. Having recited the blessing that reminds us of our opportunity and obligation to enrich our days with words of Torah, we'll continue with the reading on page 88, if you're following along in a prayer book, that reminds us of the limitless values that we share as neighbors, as fellow citizens, and as members of a community. These are things that are limitless, of which a person enjoys the fruit of the world while the principle remains in the world to come. I invite you to read with me. They are honoring one's father and mother, engaging in deeds of compassion, arriving early for study, morning and evening, dealing graciously with guests, visiting the sick, providing for the wedding couple, accompanying the dead for burial, being devoted in prayer, and making peace among people. But the study of Torah encompasses them all. We continue now with words from the 150th Psalm, Kol HaNeshama. Chatzi Kaddish, if you're following in a book, is on page 106.
Yitkadal ve'yitkadash me'rava. Ve'almadi v'achirtei amlich malchutei. B'chayechon v'yomechon. B'chayechon Beit Yisrael. ושמי רבה מבורך, לעולם לא מעלמיה, יתברך וישתבח, ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא, ויתהדר ויתהלל ויתהלל, שמי בקודשה
בריחו
לעילם עם כל ברכתה ושירתה, ושפחתה ונחמתה, דמירן בעלמה, ואמרו Amen.
If you are in a place where it's comfortable for you to rise, please do so as we continue with Baruch Hu, our call to worship.
Am I awake? Am I prepared? Are you listening to my prayer? Can you hear my voice? Can you understand? Am I awake? Am I prepared?
Baruch Adonai. Continuing now with our blessing, acknowledging the light of the morning. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, yotzer or uvorei choshech, oseh shalom uvorei et hakol, hameir la'aretz v'ladarim aleha berachamim, uvtuvo mechadesh b'chol yom tamid ma'aseh v'reishit, ma'arabu ma'asecha Adonai, kolam b'chochma asita, mal'ah ha'aretz kinyanecha, titbarach Adonai Eloheinu al shevach ma'aseh yadecha, ve'al me'orei or she'asita yefa'arucha sela, or chadash al Tzion ta'ir, v'nizkei cholanu mehera le'oro, Baruch atah Adonai, yotzer ha'me'orot. Love your neighbor as yourself, you said. And light blinded, we saw that inner and outer worlds are one as you are one. You spoke and we wrote. We reached for you down the centuries, your light moving before us as we climbed, fell back and climbed again, your Sinai of life. Baruch atah Adonai, habocher be'amod Yisrael be'ahava.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Vahed.
You may be seated. We're going to continue now with the Haftarah.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך, והיו הדברים האלה Asher Anochi Mitzavecha Hayon al Avecha Veshinantam Levanecha V'dibarta bam Beshivtecha B'veitecha Uvlechtecha V'derech Uvshochbecha Uvkumecha Ukshartam leot al yadecha V'hayu letotafot beinenecha Uchtavtam al mezuzot beitecha Uvisharecha Leman tizkeru V'asitem et kol mitzvotai V'yitem kedoshim leloechem Ani Adonai Elohechem Asher hotzeiti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim lehiot lachem Elohim Ani Adonai Elohechem.
As we continue preparing for Mi Chamocha, that song that our people sang at the sea at the moment of their liberation from slavery, we remember the midrash about this song that many of us have included in our Passover Haggadahs that we read at Seder time, and that is the story that tells that God grew angry when there was singing at the splitting of the sea, because God said to those who were singing, "How can you sing with joy when my creatures are being destroyed?" That God felt compassion even for the Egyptians suffering, even those who had enslaved and injured the Israelite people for so long. It's a reminder to all of us that even in our times of triumph and gratitude for all of the goodness and well-being that we enjoy, that is never an excuse that absolves us from our responsibility to think about those others who are suffering, that the pain and tribulation of others always has to remain in our minds, even when we ourselves are gratitude for our own well-being and wholeness. We sing Mi Chamocha. If you're in a book, we're on page 122.
Mi kamocha nedar bakodesh no ratehilot o sefelet no ratehilot o sefelet shira chadasha shibechu geulim לשמחה על שפת הים, יחד כולם הודו והמליכו ואמרו אדוני ימלוך, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. Sur Yisrael, Kuma Bezrat Yisrael, Ufedechinu Mecha, Yehuda Yisrael. Go Aleinu, Adonai Tzevaot Shemo, Kedosh Yisrael, Baruch. Adonai Ga'al Yisrael.
If you're able to rise now, I invite you to do so as we prepare to enter into our tefillah, the central section of our Shabbat morning worship service.
Adonai sefatai titaf ufi agit hilatefa. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai Elohim Eloheinu ve'Elohei Avotenu ve'Imotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, ve'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, ve'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor ve'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, Ve'Konei Hakol, Ve'Zocher Chastei Avot Ve'imahot, U'Mevi Geula Livnei V'neihem, Lema'an Shemo B'Ahava, Melech Ozer Moshiach U'Magen, Baruch Atah Adonai, Magen Avraham Vezrat Sarah, Ata Gibor Leolam Adonai, Mechaye HaKol Ata Rab Lehoshia, Morid Hatal, Mechalkel Chayim Bechesed, Mechaye HaKol Berachamim Rabim, Somech Noflim Verofei Cholim, Umatir Asurim, Umekayem Emunato, Lishenei Afar, Michamocha Al Givurot, Umidom Elach, Melech Meimit Umechaye, Umatzmiach Yeshua, V'ne'eman atah lehachayot hakol, Baruch atah Adonai mechaye hakol. We continue with Kedusha. Nikadesh et shimcha ba'olam, Kishem shemakdishim oto b'shnei maro, kakatuv al yad nevi'echa, v'kara ze'er ze' le'amar, Kadosh, 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 Adonai Tzevaot, Elohol haaretz, Evodo, Adir, Adirenu, Adonai, Adoneinu ma'adir, Shimcha bechol haaretz, Baruch kevod Adonai, Echad hu Eloheinu, Hu Avinu u'Malkeinu, U'Moshiachenu lehu yashmi'enu, Ve'rachamav ve'enei kol chai, Ani Adonai Elohechem, Yimloch Adonai le'olam, Elohayich Zion, L'dor v'dor, Hallelujah. L'dor v'dor nagid God lecha, U'netzach netzachim kedushatcha nakdish, V'shivchacha Eloheinu mipinu lo yamush, Le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai ha'el hakadosh.
We're going to continue now with a bit of quiet time for our own individual silent prayer. You may be seated now or at any time, and I encourage you to just take this time for yourself to fill the silence with your own prayers and hopes, with the yearnings of your own heart, but continue individually with a moment of silent meditation.
Yehiyu leratson imrefi lehegion libi lefanecha Adonai tzuri Adonai tzuri Egoali Egoali
We continue now with the Seder Kriyat Torah, the service for the reading of Torah on this Shabbat. This week we are in Shabbat Tazria Mitzorah from the book of Leviticus. I'll be reading this morning from chapter 13 of Leviticus. This week is a double portion, so we've got two portions put together. We'll be reading this morning, as I said, from Leviticus chapter 13. The ark has been opened, such as it is, and the Torah is ready, so we're going to begin with the blessing for the reading of the words of Torah. Baruch hu et Adonai hamvorach. Baruch Baruch Adonai hamvorach le'olam va'ed. Baruch ata Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et torato. Baruch ata Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Amen. V'ra'a oto hakohen v'hinei sa'at hanega levana atam demet bekorchato begavachto k'mar'e tzarat or basar ish tzaruahu tamehu tameh yitamenu hakohen berosho nig'o B'tzarua asher bo anegam begadav yiyu perumin berosho yeh parua al zavam yate v'tameh tameh yikra kol yemei asher hanega bo yitma tamehu badad yoshev michutz lamachane mohoshavo. Baruch ata Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch ata Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu ve'ishtatavu le'parot. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu ve'ishtatavu le'parot. Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu romemu. Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu romemu.
All right, our Torah has been put away back in the ark, but we're still in the moment of heightened sanctity associated with the service for the reading of Torah. So this is our opportunity to take a moment for Misha Berach, a moment to turn our thoughts to the people in our community, in our families, in our city, really around the country and around the world who are in need of our prayers of healing. Before we sing Misha Berach, I just want to ask you to take just a second quietly in your thoughts, in your mind, in your heart to turn to thinking about those who are in need of healing today. If you know someone personally, you can meditate or share their name, or if not, we can just turn all of our thoughts outward from ourselves toward all of those in need of healing and recovery on this day. As we draw them close to us, we turn in our prayer books and on our screen, in our prayer books and in our hearts for the words of Misha Berach, our prayer for healing.
Mikor habracha leimotenu. May the source of strength who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say bless those in need, healing with the Fuah Shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen. And let us say, Amen.
Before we do a bit of study together this morning, just a couple of brief announcements from our community so that you can know some of the latest programs and events coming up in the calendar. We're very excited to share that in addition to our Becker Shabbat, which takes place at 11 a.m., that's geared toward preschool age kids, and that is every Friday. We're also offering a kid-friendly Havdalah experience. That's going to be Saturday, May the 2nd. You can join by taking a look at our website and our Facebook page, just in the same way that you are watching our worship right now. But that's going to be great for kids Saturday evening. If you're trying to find something fun to do with your kids as Saturday evening is approaching, please consider joining us the 2nd of May for our kid-friendly Havdalah experience. I do want to invite you personally to make plans to join us for our Launch and Learn, which will be celebrating the publication of the new book that I worked on. We'll have a chance for you to hear from a couple of the terrific contributors to the book who happen to be rabbis in our region and in our city and around our city. I'd love for you to get a chance to join us, to hear from them, to learn a little bit about the book, about which I'm very, very excited. The book's title is Inscribed: Encounters with the Ten Commandments, and the date of our Launch and Learn is Tuesday, May 5th, 7 p.m. On Facebook and through the streaming page. If you go to our website and look for Proler Chapel live stream, you can join us there. Lastly, another reminder, as we do each time we see you, that if you want to stay up to date on the most recent developments about programming, worship, and more, please visit the coronavirus response page on our website. The website, again, is emmanuelhouston.org. And now I want to spend a little bit of time looking with you at our Torah portion and a couple of interesting and surprisingly relevant commentaries about the portion. What I want to talk to you about today is our city's, our county's recent mask ordinance. The rule that all of us are supposed to be wearing masks in public in order to prevent the spread of disease. As it turns out, I've said this to you a million times, there are no coincidences in Jewish life. It always happens that the world delivers us the perfect Torah portion to talk about at the perfect time. So our Torah portion today, as I mentioned, is Tazria Metzora, that talks about the diagnosis and treatment of people that are found to be infected with some sort of communicable disease in the community of Israel. The disease that we're talking about in the Bible is called Sara'at. There is no unanimity about really what that disease was, except that it's understood to be terribly contagious and terribly dangerous. So what I want to look at today is a few verses from our portion and a couple of varying responses to those verses, especially in light of the mask ordinance. These verses and their commentaries are very relevant. So I'm going to see if I can let you take a look at the verses that we'll be talking about. Let's take a look here. All right, well, that should work. I'm hoping that you can see those verses in front of you. So here's the Hebrew of the verse, and I'm going to let you take a look at the English that I read, of the verses that I read for you this morning. So here's what it says. These are the relevant verses that apply to what we'll be talking about this morning. The priest shall examine him, that is, the priest's examining the person who's found to be infected. If the swollen infection on the bald part in the front or at the back of his head is white streaked with red, like the leprosy of body, skin, and appearance, the man is leprous. He is unclean. The priest shall pronounce him unclean. He has the infection on his head. As for the person with the leprous infection, his clothes shall be torn, his head shall be left bare, and he shall cover over his upper lip, and he shall call out, unclean, unclean. He shall be unclean as long as the disease is on him. Being unclean, he shall dwell apart. His dwelling shall be outside the camp. Now, this particular translation of the Torah verses understands tzara'at to be leprosy. My understanding is that is not necessarily the best translation or understanding of what that disease was, but the point stands. As soon as the priest determines that someone in the community has been infected, the priest is the one who makes the diagnosis and the determination that this person is unclean. And what do we do to him? Here in verse 45, his clothes shall be torn, his head left bare, and he shall cover over his upper lip, and he shall call out, unclean, unclean. Now, there's a little bit of debate about this verse. I'm looking now in verse 45 about covering over his upper lip and that he should call out unclean, unclean. It's not clear whether what the Torah is describing is a sort of veil where the person who is diagnosed is supposed to cover from the top of his head down to the upper lip like that, or whether it's supposed to be more like the sort of masks that we're wearing these days, a cover from the bottom that covers up his mouth up to his nose. The point is that the person is visually marked as being infected with tzara'at. He changes the way he dresses, he changes the way his head is covered, and he has to walk around proclaiming out loud that he is unclean, ritually unclean. Now, the first thing you'll notice right away is that the difference between what the Torah is talking about and our epidemiological response of wearing masks when there's a pandemic in our community. Just give you a second to think about the differences. What you'll notice is that in the Torah's verses, the person who is infected is the only one that's ordered to cover up his mouth or his nose. But in our community, all of us are encouraged to wear masks to cover our mouths and noses in order to prevent the spread. Now, obviously, in the Bronze Age, they didn't have the same understanding of germ theory or communicable disease in the same way that we do today. But I think that there's something important in this teaching about covering up, singling out the person who is sick and making sure that he stays distant from the rest of the community. Let's take a look at a couple of medieval commentators who try to understand what the purpose is of having this person change the way he looks and to walk around proclaiming his infection, his uncleanness. We're first going to take a look at our friend Rashi, who is from like an 11th century French commentator. So on this verse, this is kind of the common sense understanding that most of us will come to when we read this verse. He shall call out unclean, unclean. He must proclaim out loud that he is unclean so that people may keep away from him. So Rashi understands that person with tzara'at needing to warn everyone, like the bell on a bicycle or the horn on your car or a bell that you put on your cat to make sure that the birds can get away. The person should announce his presence so that people don't have to get close to him and endanger their health and safety. But if we look at our other friend, this is our guy Ibn Ezra, another medieval commentary. He has a very different understanding of these verses from Torah. His clothes shall be torn. He walks about differently so that he can be recognized. Now that's very similar to what Rashi said, that he's supposed to call attention to the fact that he's infected and people shouldn't get too close to him. Or, he goes on, because it is a sign of mourning. Ibn Ezra notices that there's also a biblical teaching that when you learn about a death, when you're in mourning, you tear a piece of your clothing and that you don't cut your hair. Similarly, when in traditional settings, when you are in mourning, you don't undertake acts of vanity or self-beautification. You don't go to the spa, you don't go to the nail salon, you don't get your hair done. You're supposed to be modest and humble to call attention to the loss that you have suffered. So why is this person who's infected with a communicable disease supposed to act like he's in mourning? Ibn Ezra says His clothes are to be torn and his hair to be uncut, because he is to mourn over his evil deeds, which have brought him this disease. This is a very clear and very striking demonstration of Ibn Ezra's theology. His belief is that bad things happen to bad people. When you've misbehaved, you're going to be punished by being stricken with a disease. And conversely, when you see someone who is ill or suffering, you can conclude that they must have done something to deserve the punishment of this disease. Now, that is very much not in keeping with our modern understandings of the way disease work, and frankly, the way that God works. We don't believe that God punishes bad people by making them sick, or that people are sick because God has punished them. But Ibn Ezra's teaching helps highlight a contrast between his commentary and another one that I think is going to be very useful today in our understanding about covering up and separating ourselves from each other when there's a medical pandemic in our community. We're going to move along. We are going to conclude with this text that comes from the Talmud. In this text from the Talmud, they are making clear why they, that is the ancient rabbis of antiquity, understood these rules about the person stricken with tzara'at being forced to walk around and announce that he is tameh, that he is unclean. Don't say that he is announcing his shame. In other words, Rashi and Ibn Ezra, you're wrong. The point is not that this guy is to walk around to draw attention to the fact that there's something wrong with him, that he's a sinner, that he deserves to be disdained or scorned. No, instead, the rabbis of the Talmud teach, say that he's announcing his pain. The point of the announcement is to draw your attention to him and to understand that he is suffering. Moving on, as it is taught, he will cry, unclean, unclean. He must announce his pain to the masses, and the masses will pray for mercy on his behalf. Similarly, anyone to whom a painful matter happens must announce it publicly so the masses can pray for mercy on his behalf. So look at this beautiful teaching that the rabbis give us. When you notice someone who is suffering, the response that that sight is supposed to engender inside you is not one of scorn or derision or disdain. Instead, it's supposed to awaken your empathy. When you see someone who's been separated from the community because of illness or because of pain or any other painful matter, as they say, your response is to dig inside yourself for empathy, and in response to pray for them. Not a prayer of, gosh, I hope I don't get sick too. Gosh, I hope that guy stays far away from me. Gosh, I hope nothing terrible like that happens to anyone I love. But instead, recognizing that there are others outside of ourselves who need our love and our empathy and our attention. So tying it all together now, you can see the way that this has done a beautiful pivot with the original verses of the Torah that we read at the beginning. When we first read this verse of Leviticus, our understanding was that the point of these rules was to stigmatize the person who is sick, to make him visibly and communally separate. And that may have been what the Torah originally meant. But as these verses have gotten into the hands of the commentators over the centuries, what they teach us instead is that the point of recognizing those who are ill, those who are infected in our communities, isn't to make them feel terrible. The point is that our job is to remember what we owe them in terms of our communal responsibilities for prayer and care and compassion for others. And this all comes to sort of a beautiful synergy today when our contemporary custom, enlightened as it is by science and epidemiology and medicine, is that our point, the way that we have conducted ourselves during this coronavirus pandemic isn't just to lock up the people who are sick and put them in a leper colony, but instead to realize that there is an obligation on all of us, healthy and sick alike, to take care of our actions, to be healthy and thoughtful about how we move through the world, and at all times to do the things that we do to prevent additional people from getting sick and to look after those who are already sick. This illness doesn't only create obligations on the part of those who are infected, instead on all of us. That our job is for all of us to be thoughtful, to obey and to follow the directives and instructions of public health officials and government officials who are making decisions in the best interest of community health, so that even as we do our part medically to prevent the spread of disease, we're doing our part spiritually to cultivate and engender and sustain a culture of compassion, of thoughtfulness, and empathy on behalf of everyone, sick and well alike. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. We are going to continue in our service. Now that we've done a bit of learning together, we are going to get ready to do a bit of remembering together. This work of memory comes from the same place that we discussed in our Torah learning this morning. It comes from a place of empathy and humility to recognize the place of other people in our spiritual well-being, and to turn to the memories of those we have lost with tenderness and respect and love. As we get ready to offer Kaddish this morning, we're going to take a second to think about the members of our community who were laid to rest in recent days. On this Shabbat, our hearts are going out in sympathy and in love and with comfort to the families of Florence Kless Yellen, Richard Jacobs Reiser, Nancy Carlson, Stanley Rosenthal, and Denise DeYoung. As we remember them, we remember all of those we have loved and lost. We take just a moment to remember them with kindness and with reverence. And as we do, we turn our eyes to the words of Kaddish that we will offer together. If you are in a place where you're comfortable standing, I invite you to rise for the recitation of Kaddish. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbi, ba'alma divrei chirutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechon v'yomechon v'chayedecho Beit Yisrael, ba'agala u'vizman kariv v'imru Amen. Yehei shmei Rabbi mevarach le'elam lo'mei almaya, Yitbarach, v'yishtabach, v'yitpa'ar, v'yitramam, v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar, v'yitalev, v'yitalal, shemed kudsha barichu, la'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, da'amiran be'alma v'yimru, Amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shmaya, v'chayim alenu ve'al kol Yisrael, v'yimru, Amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, alenu ve'al kol Yisrael, v'yimru, Amen.
Oseh shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imeru Amen.
As we make our way toward the close of our service this morning, I want to wish all of you a Shabbat Shalom, a weekend of peace, a Shabbat of tranquility, a time of restoration and joy, we hope, a time to recharge and to rejuvenate your souls and yourselves in this beautiful world that we share. And so as we do, we're going to continue with the Shamru so that we can conclude with a sip of sweetness, we hope. If you've got something to say Kiddush over, now's a chance for you to grab it or to go pull something together so that we can join together in this blessing, giving thanks for the things that give us joy and give us.
V'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, la'asot et ha-Shabbat l'dorotam b'ritolam. V'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, la'asot et ha-Shabbat l'dorotam b'ritolam. Beini uvein b'nei Yisrael, oti leolam, oti leolam. V'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, la'asot et ha-Shabbat l'dorotam b'ritolam. Ki sheshet yamim aseh Adonai, Aseh Adonai et hashamayim ve'et haaretz, v'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, sot et ha-Shabbat l'dorotam b'ritolam. U'vayom hashvi Shabbat vayinapash, Shabbat vayinapash, Shabbat vayinapash, v'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, la'asot Shabbat לדורותם בברית עולם.
Al Kain Berach Adonai Tu Shabbat Vaikadshehu. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam Borei Peri Hagafen L'chaim. Now let's give thanks for the one who brings bread from the earth and for all the things that sustain us. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam Hamotzi Lechem Min Haaretz. Well, friends, I want to wish you a Shabbat Shalom. We're going to close with one more round of Oseh Shalom, just to bring us into this weekend, surrounded by goodness and by peace, by the presence of those we love, and by the presence of God.
Oseh Shalom b'Rama, u'ya'aseh Shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imru amen. Ya'aseh Shalom, ya'aseh Shalom, Shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ya'aseh Shalom, ya'aseh Shalom, Shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Shabbat Shalom.